Yes, back at it again. You see the flag in the background. We're going to the South, going to Oklahoma. They just came off a huge win uh, this weekend, and we want to talk about it. So, talk about this team, talk about the postseason decision that the NCAA came out with, talk about their staff, talk about what makes Mike be so dynamic in this space as a head coach and leader. But we have one of his assistant coaches new to the staff. He was on last year when they were hot as fish grease at Drake. He was one of the assistants, went viral with his interview. So we got him back again to talk about OSU and the South. So we're going to bring in Larry B from Oak State, the Cowboy. He's a Cowboy now.
Go Pokes, go Pokes.
What's up, man?
Not much. Brian, how we doing, bud? Appreciate you having me on, Kevin. Always a pleasure, and I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to jump on and exchange a few ideas and thoughts for a little bit.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're going to get straight to it. Big win Saturday. You play the Longhorns. Obviously, a lot of buzz around the Longhorns from this offseason. New coach, all these new players, new transfers. Oklahoma State last year has the number one player in the draft. You get this crazy news from the NCAA that you can't play in the tournament. So every game, I'm sure you guys are approaching the way you're approaching to win every game, but the games where you play the ranked opponents have to feel a little bit sweeter. What was that win like? What has this journey been like knowing that you guys can't play postseason because of an NCAA thing that most people in the world, if you have any sense, didn't agree with?
Well, first and foremost, I think, our heart breaks for our seniors. A lot of especially coming off the COVID year, we played in the bubble. And we were fortunate at Drake to enjoy it. And also these guys here had an opportunity to enjoy it. But guys like Bryce Williams, Isaac Likelill, I mean, for them to spend their last year in college basketball and not have a chance to play in that tournament, especially in a traditional year, I mean, that's heartbreaking. And to their credit, no one's really complained. Obviously, everyone knows the deck that we've kind of been dealt, but they really just, put their head down and kind of work as hard as they can. And I think it's really brought our team closer. Our team, our fan base, our campus community. I think a lot of people have rallied around something that none of us agree with. But I think at the same time, it's not necessarily what happens. And, Coach Mike is really he's really purposeful and he's really intentional with how he convinces our guys that it's not what really happens, it's how you deal with it.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of how you deal with it, going into that game just this Saturday, playing a conference rival more or less. A lot of recruiting happens in Texas for Oak State. A lot of Texas recruiting happens with Texas now. What was that victory like? What was that game back? Take us through that a little bit.
Well, college basketball, any game that you can win, especially in the Big 12, any game that you can win is always a great thing. And for us, when Oklahoma State has been great, you look at the greats. Obviously, Cade was here, Marcus Smart. When our teams are great, we've done really well from a recruiting standpoint in Texas. So that game, obviously, being the next game was awesome, but also having a chance with a lot of our guys playing against familiar faces, a lot of the built-in rivalries. It was awesome to have a chance to play against a good team and come out on the right side of the win-loss column.
You guys, I think the one thing that always pops when I watch you guys play is feels like you guys have 8-9 starters. There's, just a depth and a balance to your group. And it feels like any given night, obviously, against, Texas, a guy coming off the bench and, Keelan Boone's the guy who leads you in scoring and leads you to a huge victory. Can you talk about how you guys have navigated that, the depth and keeping everybody, you got a bunch of mouths to feed. How do you keep everybody happy?
Certainly. Well, Kevin, that's one of the strengths of our team. I think in specifically this week, we played 3 games we played 4 games in 7 days. And really with this stretch, we'll play on Tuesday at West Virginia. Then we'll go to Texas Tech Thursday. And then Saturday, we'll finish at Baylor. So having a really deep roster gives us a chance to be able to throw out a lot of different guys. But more importantly, with guys and from a development standpoint, being able to play in practices against comparable competition with guys that you can throw out there in any Big 12 contest, I think it really has helped our team from a development standpoint because day in and day out, you're having to really compete and play against guys that could like Keelan jump up and they could give you 20 on any given night. So I think it really has helped from a development standpoint.
Talk to me about Coach Boynton and what you've been able to learn from him about coaching, about life, and your first year working for him.
Well, the basketball success speaks for itself. I know Coach Boynton, Coach Mike is, he's had a lot of success on the court, both as a head coach and as an assistant. But what really, really rivals that is the kind of just human being and role model, father figure, man, just he is just for our team, for our family, for the campus community. Like, there's nothing that's too big or too small for him. He doesn't carry himself and put himself up on a pedestal. And every day in and out, just his humility, how he approaches it, how hard he works, and just how accessible he is, and how he really can just build relationships that go beyond and just the whole beyond just being a basketball coach. That's been amazing for me to see him as a man.
How do you think, his leadership and that humility has helped lead your team through this, really challenging year where you guys haven't been, knowing that end goal isn't attainable for you guys?
Well, I just think it speaks to who he is. Again, we've been dealt a deck of cards that a lot of people would really not have any interest in. A lot of times in these kind of situations, a lot of the players may opt to go do something and maybe save their year. A lot of guys may complain and may not give it their best because of who he is, the kind of person that he is, the relationships that he has, the kind of coach. Our guys, they get better. And I think beyond that, they know how much he cares about them, how much he's concerned about their development on and off the court. And I think because of that, our team has embraced who he is and really just that whole Ubuntu motto that each one of us, we're only as good as each other. And just that kind of family culture that he's built has allowed us to persevere through all of this.
You mentioned the upcoming stretch you guys have coming up with the 3 road games this week. You had Kansas and Texas this past week. What is the grind in this conference like? It feels like it's unlike anything else in college basketball, the Big 12, and to these 10 teams. Anyone can beat anyone any given night, and it's a war, man.
Well, the KenPom is a metrics that most people use or point to when trying to determine those who has the best conference, et cetera. And you can look at anything, synergy, you can go on hoop math, you can go on whatever you want. The Big 12 is the undisputed, best conference in the country. I mean, this year, like if anyone can find anything that can refute that or go against it, like I would love to see it. And it's fun. I mean, as you go through, one of the things that Coach Mike always says is that all we can think about is the next game. You don't have time to look at the second one or the one you just played. There's no gimmies. Every night, if you don't bring it, you're not going to win, period. And he's really used that with our guys. I mean, the reality is, although we can't play for the NCAA tournament, if we can go through this conference and we can win the league, win it outright, I mean, at the end of the day, I think you can argue if you can win the regular season, you play everyone home and home. If you can win that, I think you can make a strong case for being the best team in the country when it's all said and done.
Absolutely. Talk me through the leadership of this team and how they've dealt with some of these things. Seeing right there, Isaac Likely, who's sure. I think one of the great leaders in college basketball. How have they dealt with this, and what is coaching them meant to you this year?
Well, as you mentioned, Isaac is a senior. He's been around the program the longest. And for him, just the mentality that he brings, his game, I mean, the way he plays, he's an unselfish player that his success, I mean, he's our best defender. He leads our team and has the best assist to turnover ratio. He doesn't score as much as most people would think. And the way he sets the tone with his selflessness, guarding the best player every night, leading our team in assists, and just creating a culture of unselfishness, I think that really just has helped our team with how he leads.
Yeah, I love it, Coach. What's one of the things about Coach Mike? I mean, I don't know if there's very many coaches that have embraced being as young as he is at the highest level and embraced the brand and the community of OSU the way that he has. He deserves every bit of his contract that he earned last year. And I know him personally, so I'm biased from coaching against him and seeing him as an assistant at Stephen F. Austin when I'm in the South and at Lamar. He's the same guy, but it just seems like the way he's approached, whether it's recruiting and kind of being creative there with his social media, or how he's played to things like this. Just it seems like every situation he just handles so calculatedly well. What can you say about Coach that maybe people that aren't around him every day get a chance to see?
Well, I think a few things. First, I feel like it's 5 of him because he's everywhere. And I'll give you some specific examples. He's incredible on campus with just the students. And we were taking our staff over to the student union, and we were going to give out T-shirts with our team, and our staff was going to meet them over on campus. And there was there was a softball player that walked by, and he greeted that student athlete by her name. And we were behind them, so she couldn't see us, and just the reaction and how he just knows each and every one. And it's not as exclusive to every team, the football team. You can see the women's basketball team. Like, it just seems the way he's, in spite of the position that he has, he's incredibly high touch, and he's not someone that when people meet, you never feel like, and even with recruits or boosters or just anyone, it's not exclusive that can help him. He just has an ability to make everyone feel like they're special, they're important, and always has time for people. And I think his time as an assistant has really helped him. I think a lot of guys become head coaches, especially at this level. And I can speak from my high school experience. You go when you're a high school coach and you want to spend time with the head coach, and they blow you off. They won't give you the time of the day. I just think the man that he is, the humility that he has, and his ability to connect with people and genuinely connect. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I'll give you another example. We had an unofficial visit on campus, and there's boosters. We're having a lot of the teams together, and they're cooking out. So everyone's there. There's food being passed around, and we're getting ready to go from that kind of tailgate, if you will, over to the football game. And as you know, from being an assistant, normally the assistants have set up the rides, have got the tickets squared away, and we're all a new staff. All of us.
It's a well-oiled machine for an assistant.
It's unreal. And he's coordinating, okay, you're going to take the cart here. And that's just his personality. There's no job that's too big or too small. And I mean this genuinely. What most people have said is like, man, it seems like you work for a great man. It seems like you work for someone that, is energetic. It seems like you work for someone that's really passionate about people. And I can say from my experience, it's exceeded what people see on TV. And that's an everyday deal. I don't know how he does it. And I'm convinced there's more than one of him.
I love it. So let's go back to your time, Coach, coming through the ranks in this college basketball thing, and even before college basketball. Tell us a little bit of your background. Those that know you know the Orangeville version of you, and coaching guys like the NBA star for the Nuggets, who's unfortunately still hurt, or they really would be making a different run right now. That's Mr. Murray, aka Buckets. Talk a little bit about your journey to come through this thing and how that's kind of prepared you to be at this high major level doing great things.
Well, I don't want to bore everyone, but I've been fortunate. My journey started at the Division III level. I got a chance to be there for 5 years, and then I moved up to have a chance to coach some Division II basketball for a little bit. And I kind of got my break when I was given the opportunity to move to Toronto to be a head coach in a new expansion league in Toronto. I did that for a season, and then I was blessed with a chance to help start Orangeville Prep up in Canada. And that experience, I think we had 30 Division I players and 6 NBA players in 3 years. And I'm grateful for that because I had an opportunity to get a chance to meet a lot of college coaches, to get a chance to see a lot of people recruited, to be on a lot of visits. And I think that experience really gave me an opportunity in this profession. I didn't know it then, And I, Brian, I know we talk about it a lot. I never apologize for my faith. I'm convinced that the good Lord knew what he was doing, because I wanted to go from Orangeville. We had a really good team, and a lot of lives and families generationally were changed. But I wanted to go from there to this high major level. And I was fortunate to have a chance to have to start at Canisius, and I was there for 2 years where we won a championship. And I got a chance to learn more of the profession from a Division I standpoint. After 2 years there, I went to Drake, and I spent 3 years at Drake. We had a lot of success there as well. We went to the tournament. We won a conference championship. We won 20 games every year. And I'm convinced that the good Lord, just through the journey of being D2, D3, a college football player, I think it gave me a different perspective of this. And it really helped me to really understand that no matter what happens, that the kids are at the center of this. And I think just the proficiency in the different things, the good, the bad, and the indifferent that you learn at all the different levels. There's not a day that goes by at this level that I don't pull from those experiences and from a lot of the lives that we were fortunate to impact. And truthfully, a lot of the lives that impacted me as well. So my journey's been a long road, but I'm grateful every day for the way that it kind of went and how things kind of transpired.
I think you're muted, B.
God, I'm back. I didn't want to jump in. Let's give him the ISO, get it clear out. I'll ask one more and I'll pass to Kevin for the closer, but he's the closer now. He used to not be the closer. I'm the closer. He's Mariano Rivera now. We got no choice.
We got the righty or the lefty?
I'm lefty, baby. Lefty.
Yeah,
Softball.
Lefty. If you haven't seen his IG either, you got to see the shot, the form.
Oh, here we go now.
He was on point. We don't know if it went in or not, but anyway, that's another subject.
That's the real buckets, not Jamal.
Man, exactly. Thought it was Jamal Murray. So recruiting now, obviously being able to talk about coaching those guys you just mentioned at Orangeville, just personally when you're recruiting, obviously you sell your program, you sell coach. What is it like recruiting now in this day and age with the portal and all the things that are going on around college basketball, the first year eligibility? I mean, one-time transfer that makes you immediately eligible. What is it like at the highest level, Power 5 level recruiting? Because some people think at the lower levels it's the farm system, but at the same time now a high-level guy that may not be playing for you guys can go be a major player on another team. So what is it like with your roster, just knowing that, and even in the recruiting spaces, how do you manage that?
Well, being in cowboy country, I'll say it's the wild, wild west, no pun intended. I think it still boils down to the basics. And I think my time at Orangeville really helped me because a lot of our guys went to places across the country. And I think they went to places that didn't fit. And I look at that like, there's 1,600 transfers every year. I was in the room for a lot of conversations that were not factual. And I'll give you specific examples. A kid and a family goes to institution A, and they tell that kid that at institution A that if you come to us, you'll play the point, you'll play 30 minutes, you'll get to have the basketball, and you'll get to do this. And then student athlete goes to institution A and they play them at the 3. And then everyone gets upset with the kid that we just mentioned because he wants to leave after the first year when what he said, what institution A told him wasn't correct. So I think for starters, one of the things that I really, amongst many things, but one of the things I really respect about Coach Mike is he's so honest that sometimes as an assistant, when you're recruiting, you're like, Coach, man, maybe you could admit that. You like omit that like point, like, and I respect it. I mean, I think it goes back to why our guys and our culture, in spite of some adversity, is still really, really strong because all the relationships are built on trust and truth. And I think they're built on truth. And I think that truth can create and builds trust. So I think that's the first thing is identifying what the real fit and need is. And then I think once you do that, I think if you tell people, one, we don't have a lot of guys transferring in and out of here, regardless of the situation. because he is so upfront and truthful. But then the second part is kind of identifying what we will need and then figuring out a way to address that. Coach and the staff did a really good job with this class, with Woody Newton, Musa Cisse, Bryce Thompson. Those guys have come in and had an immediate impact already. And I think with us, moving forward, I think as we do move forward, trying to find exactly what we need and being able to lean on some of these relationships. I think people know that coach does what he says and says what he's going to do.
Right. Well said. All right. Last time I did around the head, we're going to go on.
Well, we always end the show with a funny story, and you've been around, so you certainly have some good ones in college basketball, high school, working for Coach Boynton. We need a good funny story to wrap us up here.
Wow, no pressure.
You thought you were in the hot seat before, now it just got warm, man.
Well, one of my favorite parts of college basketball is when former players call or text unexpectedly.
Yeah.
So one of our players is getting ready to get married this summer, and he shot a text and, obviously was shooting kind of a text message or a picture of the save the date. And it kind of reminded me of a funny story with him. Funny, maybe not funny. So this young man is a 6'5" young man from the middle of nowhere, Virginia. I won't embarrass him. And he's a Division III player, country boy. Country is like a brown egg, fishing and just all of that stuff. And I'm country as well. So I love country boys, no disrespect. But long story short, this is the kid's first time away from small town, Virginia. And it's about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And, obviously this is 9-10 years ago. Texting wasn't as prevalent. It may have been iPhone 2 or 3. So he shoots a text message, "Coach, help." And I'm like, whoa, this can't be good. I mean, this is probably his third week on campus. And he said, "Coach, I can't feel my legs." So I'm thinking this is not going to be good. I mean, the young man. So I asked him what's going on. And lo and behold, he said, "Coach, I'm kind of embarrassed." And he wouldn't respond. So the dots are on the phone and nothing's happening. So a minute and a half later, I'm sitting, and I called the kid. I was like, "Man, you got to tell me what's going on." So I call him, and he's embarrassed. He doesn't want to tell me. He says, "Coach, I've been sitting on the pot for about 5 or 6 minutes." I guess he was reading something, and his legs, I guess, had fallen asleep, and he couldn't feel his legs. So that young man trying to explain to me that his legs had fallen asleep because he was sitting on that toilet his first time away from home. That's a silly story. And it kind of came up. He laughed and laughed. Obviously, he's getting ready to get married. So if I'm asked to speak at his wedding, that may be a story that comes up. But I think those are the things that make this worthwhile as you go through your career, kind of laughing at some of those silly things that happen as when you're with these guys.
No doubt. I love that story. I got one more before we go. What's one aspect, man, of this thing? You mentioned all these levels you've been at. You've been on the side where you've seen guys get recruited. You've been Division III, Division II, low major, mid major, high major, right? And been in the tournament, seen it all. So what's one thing about this thing that people don't know, either how hard it is or they think it's one way, but really it's another? What's one thing just behind the curtain, if you just had to say, of the business that you would say in general, not just the highest level?
I think every place has a different perspective. And I can remember when I was coaching with CIA Bounce on the Nike EYBL, and that was the team with Dylan Brooks, we had Jamal Murray, Kyle Alexander. I mean, we had countless NBA players on that AAU team. And I can remember my first time on the sidelines, all of a sudden, just thinking, man, if I was a college coach, I would get a hotel room, my own hotel room. I would get a chance to have a bunch of frequent flyer miles. I get Marriott points, and I think the perspective on that side, and obviously, you're compensated fairly. I think my perspective as an AAU coach was like, man, if I could just get to college basketball, then I would be happy. And I think when you're at college basketball, I think when you're on this side, you're like, man, if I could just go get Jamal, Andrew Wiggins, and you think your perception of it is that, man, it's easy. I just go over there and I'll just get this dude and this dude. So and I can remember when I was at Canisius, you know, at a low to mid major, like I can remember thinking like, man, if I got to the highest level, then I would be able to get the best player and not trying to figure out if they're too good for us, but not quite good enough for them.
Right.
So I think like no matter what level you're at, the grass always seems to be greener.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the little things like, you know, when you're a high school coach and a college coach calls you and says, look, you know, I'm going to call you tomorrow or I'm going to come to your gym, and then they don't show up. Now, as a college coach, I understand a little bit differently. Like, you know, one, you shouldn't do it, but there's so many different things that can happen throughout the course of the day.
Right.
And trying to manage all that. And I think I can remember being a high school coach thinking, man, you know, this dude can play for you. Like, he's really good. And some of those guys were guys that turned out having really good careers. But when you're a high school coach, you may not understand that if they have 3 point guards, then they don't need a fourth, even if it is Jamal Murray.
Right.
So, you know, I think each stop has a different perspective, and everyone has their challenges no matter where you are. But
right.
I think the one constant is, and I always say this and I mean it, if you're doing this to help kids, no matter what the challenges are, like everywhere has their challenges. If the root of why you're doing this is to help people, like you will enjoy every day of it, you will get better at it, and you'll move up. But at the end of the day, in all the different spaces, that's always been the constant why, and that's to help young people use this game to change their lives, in some cases generationally.
No doubt, no doubt. You're doing it at a high level. That's what you do. That's why you do it. Appreciate you coming on and taking the time. The entire OSU staff. The one thing I didn't ask, I've grown up with almost the entire staff outside of yourself, but I've gotten to know you through this last pandemic. But really cool to see Coach Burton decide to, in the midst of all of the controversy coming out of last season with inequities and Black Lives Matter and just racial and social justice, period, for him to hire in all of his full-time assistant positions, all 3 black males, was a really cool thing to see. The only high major Power 5 coach to do that. So I did want to say that before you leave. I salute you guys for what you guys are doing and paving the way for more people behind you, more than you even know. So we salute you. Appreciate you coming on, and look forward to seeing you guys continue to do big things and handle this controversy. That's not really a controversy. It's just really flat out wrong by the NCAA. I can say that. They can come get me if they want. But we appreciate how you're handling it with such class and such integrity and such dignity, because it's inspirational for all of us, because we all felt like we've been wronged in some way or another along the way, but not to that level for those young men. So for them to handle it the way they are, and you guys, hats off to you guys, and thanks for coming, man.
Well, we really, really appreciate it. And, you know, that's a thank you from our staff, for all of our players, our campus community. We can't thank you guys for highlighting and for giving us an opportunity to even share some of our thoughts just in reference to it, and even the kind words and the support from afar. So thank you so much for all of that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Good luck the rest of the way, Coach.
Thank you so much, Brian, Kevin. God bless. Thank you so much, and look forward to connecting here soon.
Thanks, Coach.
Say hello.
We'll do for sure. Likewise.
All right. One of the best, man. You guys can see why. Love that dude. He's special at what he does. Success everywhere he goes at a high level, and just such one of them sincere and authentic, genuine people in this business, who's also really good at what he does. So, Kevin, go ahead and break down OSU, and then we'll shut it down.
Yeah, man, they're battling, right? I mean, this league is very challenging, and you know, they really guard you. They force turnovers, and you know, held Texas, a team with, you know, loaded with former 5 stars and all conference guys. They held them 51 points on Saturday, and that's I'm not a basketball expert, but I will say that when you hold a team to 51 points, you're probably gonna win the game. And Oklahoma State won the game, and you know, they'll be competitive in this league. And they've got 3 tough road games this week. It doesn't get any easier, but that's the nature of the beast in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think you know, Coach Mike is probably one of the most just beloved guys for how he handles, again, how he treats people. Even Coach saying it feels like there's 5 of them. It makes sense just by the way he kind of spreads love and still seems like he's always. I think one thing that's cool about Coach Mike is the fact that he always handles the tough situations so well. I think he's really mastered that kind of like graciousness. But anyway, pleasure having these guys on. Look forward to seeing them continue to do big things. And you know where to find us on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.